relentlessly engaging, eye-opening, and no-holds-barred, Delvin Cox is the original one to knock him out the box. He's here on this podcast today.
Thank you for having me on, brother.
Anytime. I'm your host, Sully, and once again, we are just doing another podcast interview where we hope we can inspire some podcast creators, entertainers out there, as well as just get a whole focus on other do's and how's. Let me say that part. Welcome to the show. Once again, I've had you on before, just talk about various movies and TV shows, but I was like, no, let's get to know the man himself, Delvin Cox. So you started up the Delvin Cox experience for a few years now, and you've had so many different guests. You've been on video game podcasts. You've been all around.
A jack of all trades, they probably would say. I'm on a lot of different podcasts. I host a lot of different podcasts. I'm a guest on quite a few podcasts, to say the least. Yeah.
You're a Who Would Win judge.
Yes.
And so describe your comedy roots. When did you get started? When did you get the comedy bug?
Shoot, I don't know if I would even consider myself comedy. It's more or less like I don't describe it. Like, okay, I can give you the podcast history for those who don't know. I haven't told this story in a while. So, a while back, I want to say that was probably 2013, I want to say. I started a podcast with my friend. His name's Al. He's a rapper.
Hi, Al.
He's a very eclectic person. So, we started a podcast called the Mic Drop Podcast.
The Mic Drop, nice.
So, we would talk about because he was in the army, so he's a former military guy. He used to rap and stuff like that. He would have these out there takes, because he's a black guy. He would have these out there takes that wasn't common for people. Like, one of the things that I always tout him for is when the whole thing, when Trump got nominated to for election way back then.
Oh man,
he was the first person I ever heard say he's gonna win. He's going to win by a lot. I'm like, huh? I'm like, are you serious? Because this is like, I said, be clear, this is like early after. I want to say this was like during the primaries, the Republican primaries, where people were clowning him. And like, there's no way he's going to even get nominated, no less
they weren't
win.
Noticing all the crazies in the background, just, bringing their MAGA shirts. And it's like,
people weren't even talking. They was looking at it like a joke. And he was dead sure, like, he's going to win. And he's going to win by a lot.
Joking.
Yeah, he's gonna. He told me that, and I kind of listened. I kind of brushed it off a little bit, and I think we recorded an episode like right after. Like, yeah, everything you said was on point, correct, like to the T.
To the T.
So we did that for a while, and then he started having a lot of personal issues. Because Al is one of those guys who I don't know if you have any friends like this, Cam, where weird shit always happens to them. And it sounds so weird that you can't believe it. And then you find out it's actually true. And it makes it more shocking.
I've had a few who were that way, and I just didn't bother summing it up. And there were others where it's like, well, I bought the first 5 lies,
Yeah. Well, I'll put it to this way. Al's one of those people that think weird things happen to you. You're like, that doesn't sound like it's true. And then you actually feel like it's true. Like I can't tell that story.
But no, that is true. There are other times where it's kind of like when you're accused of a crime or something, and then, half the time the person's their own worst enemy. They're not good at defending themselves or explaining shit. So when bad things happen to them, that's why, they're always in the wrong place. So that's why they're their own worst enemy, to where even just detailing it to a lawyer, they're having trouble just taking cliff notes on.
Yeah, exactly.
Justified to the PR.
Yeah, it's like, so he ended up in so nutty situations, like, I know it's true. And it got to the point where it's like, this podcast is becoming too much of a strain on you to do it. And I'm not going to force you to do a podcast, because that's at the end of the day, it's my friend. I've known him since high school. That's been like 20 years now.
I love you, man,
but yeah,
this is
exactly.
Taking the worst out of you.
Yeah, so what I ended up doing was I said, I'll just find a new co-host. And this was like, I was early on Twitter. So I didn't know too many people. And I found myself not finding someone who would gel with me to do a podcast with. So I came up with the idea because I was a big fan of shows like Arsenio Hall and just stuff like talk shows like David Letterman, Jay Leno. I came up with the idea, why don't I just do that? I just interview people from the internet and see how that goes, and
Nice.
just to learn, because I kind of like to hear people's different experiences and stuff like that.
Did you network with a bunch of others or go to some live comedy shows and network there?
No, that's the thing. I didn't do none of that stuff. Like none of it. Like,
well, no, I knew you were already a one-man show. I'm just saying.
No, it's one of those things that just like I kind of just met people on the internet. As weird as that sounds, like I started doing podcasting,
hang out in the same groups
and meeting people. And
anyone use that hashtag, hey, they retweeted that hashtag, Mike. Ask them what they're doing.
Yeah, so it was one of those things. One of the first interviews I got was it's funny because I do a podcast with them now. His name's Donnie Reese. He has
Reese. I love it.
He has a podcast network called PSVG, or Play Some Video Games. He was one of the first guests I had on talking about video games, and now I do a podcast with him.
Correct.
So I kind of just got in the groove. I kind of got in the groove of just interviewing people from the internet, whether it was small podcasters and just small podcasters, comedians. And through that, I just kept meeting more and more people and building a fan base. And I think that's kind of how it works. When you're a podcaster, the biggest thing you can do is meet people, talk to people.
1,000%. It brings the best out of you, just talking in a giant room.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I met a lot of people. That's how I met James Gavsey. I met James Gavsey in early Who Would Win days, like before. I guess they call it before season. Yeah, they call it. I guess they call it the preseason now. That's what they call it. But before
the test run.
Yes, the test run. That's exactly what they call it. Before
season 0.
Before Ray became a part of the show, I met James back in those days. So those earlier Who Would Win episodes and things like that, and I grew a friendship with him. And then when Ray got involved in the show, I grew a friendship with him, and it's kind of just how it's all about connecting with people and kind of getting the bond. And even with me doing my show, my good friend Chalfie, who's a very good friend of mine, he was telling me like, you have this unique thing where you just, no matter who you talk to, you kind of bring them into the conversation, and you kind of your whole thing is uniting the culture through diversity. Like that's how I got my tagline, because he came up with it. So that's always been a thing of mine. That's just cool.
Do you feel like your voice not only just kind of draws everyone out, but for an actual sit-down conversation, but also just like they're able to layer what kind of a tone that the conversation is going to go?
My whole thing is this: I let people be who they are, and I think that's if you're an interviewer, I think it's very important to let people be who they are and express themselves the way they want to express themselves, and more importantly, let people talk. Because that's how I kind of gotten pretty decent at, I could say, where, I kind of listen to people. I don't want to cut them off. I just kind of let them speak their mind and speak their points. And we have a conversation about it. Whether I agree with them or not, I think it's more important. Yeah, I think it's more important for them to get their opinion out than me to attack them.
Right.
And I've had people on my show plenty of times that I didn't agree with. Like, I've had people on the far right side of politics. I've had people on the far left side of politics. I've had people in the middle. And I've always listened to their point of view and tried to find a little kernel that we can have a conversation and discussion about.
Is that what then led you to Gutting the Sacred Cow?
Oh, yeah.
One punch.
See, that's the thing about Gutting the Sacred Cow. I think how I met Kevin Guti. I met him really early in his podcasting career. Like, I want to say, if you go through the Gutting the Sacred Cow catalog, I'm like episode 20.
Yeah.
So
for those who don't know, it's they take a movie, infamous or not, that's been financially successful or again been very acclaimed, and they dissect it, so to speak.
Yeah,
why
exactly.
It might not be all that.
So Kevin Guti reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, would you want to come on an episode?" And I'm like, I'm not funny. I'm not a comedian. Like, you don't have to do none of that. I'm like, he said, you don't have to do none of that. Just come on and get a movie that you don't like. And if you know the parameters for the show, they were kind of a lot more strict back then. He's kind of laxed on it a little bit, but it's still similar thing. Because the whole thing was you had to do a critically acclaimed movie, or like either critically acclaimed movie, a financial success, or just something like that, like a highly rated movie that people love, a fan favorite. So with the parameters I had, I picked Avatar because I absolutely hate that movie. Have you seen Avatar, Cam?
Unfortunately, my father went to it twice, and he's not only not big on James Cameron's work, but he just thought it was just so deep and everything. I'm like, no,
it's not. It's Pocahontas.
This has what every other derivative blockbuster you have disliked. Yeah. This one has as well, and he went and saw it twice. He never sees movies twice in the theater. But I think I heard your Last Jedi episode, I think, and you're like, this is a SJW.
No, I didn't do that one. I did Fast and Furious.
Yeah, okay, I heard the Fast and Furious.
I hate The Last Jedi, though. That is just a trash movie.
Oh, shit. Who did The Last Jedi?
I don't remember now. I'll give you a little story about that. I wanted to do The Last Jedi because Kevin Gucci asked me to come back on. And when I wanted to do it, he said, somebody just picked that movie. Like, damn it.
It's no brainer. But yeah, Fast and Furious is hysterical because you go into is like, why, watching this original, how did this spawn a giant franchise? It just doesn't add up.
Yeah, it's one of those movies.
Point Break movie.
Yeah, it's the Fast and Furious original movie is so outdated because, like, if you watch the beginning scenes, they're like stealing DVD players. That's their whole plan, like robbing trucks for DVD players. Like, okay, and with this high tech equipment, which is absurd.
Yeah,
but I agree.
And you were always an avid movie guy. You were always just on it. We got to have a sit down family time.
Yeah, I love movies. Like, that's kind of my thing. Movies, video games. It's weird to say this. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I like everything. I watch sports. I like movies. I like video games. I'm big into like comic books. I like comedy. Like Dave Chappelle's my favorite comedian. Like, I'm just kind of into everything. And I think that kind of benefits me in a way where I don't mind having people of different cultures and backgrounds on my show because 9 times out of 10, I'll get what they're talking about.
Right?
Yeah.
And do you feel like that's kind of the variety is kind of missing in today's world now? Everyone's only making time for X amount of things. There's people who won't bother with movies or TV, but they'll do games all day.
Oh, yeah. I think the problem with, since you brought up, I think the problem with our society is we're very closed-minded on things.
Yeah.
We're very closed-minded on a lot of things, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, whether it's anything. We want everything to be seen through our lens, and not everything's seen through our lens. So sometimes you have to open your mind to get an understanding for it. And yes, you can disagree with certain things about other facts and things like that, but it's better to learn about what you're disagreeing with it so you can understand why you disagree with it. That's how I
face it head on.
Yeah.
Right now we got movie politics such as physical media versus streaming.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. What do you land on that conversation yourself?
Go where you're going to get the best presentation. If you got a better experience from a movie you're going to watch multiple times, you might as well get the Blu-ray with all free director's cuts and the special features. If you're on a budget, then you have no right to complain about whatever edit of the film is up on Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
or nowadays
I kind of agree.
Shudder and Tubi, and
I've learned, especially with this Warner Brothers situation that's going on right now. I kind of like physical media because I don't like the ideal of having a show that I love and then the show just goes away and you can't watch it anymore.
Right?
Like perfect example. Me and my kids love a show called Infinity Train. Have you ever heard of this show?
I have not. Infinity Train. Look it up.
It's really good.
Infinity Train. Oh.
Yes.
Oh. Whoa.
Really cool kids cartoon.
Oh, it's by the guys who did regular show. It's on Cartoon Network, and they aired further episodes on HBO Max. Okay, wow.
It's a really cool show. HBO Max took it away.
Voice cast. Holy cannoli. Ben Mendelsohn, Ernie Hudson, Kate McGrew, and Lena Headey.
Excellent show.
Man. So this is some of this could easily disappear into the abyss that is the internet, and you'll watch it on like a third-party channel. I'm seeing it now with some DirecTV, before it got taken over by new management, aired a bunch of shows. Some of them are now on Netflix, and some of them like released their first 2 seasons and never released the rest of it. Like you could buy it on Amazon or Vudu, but that was it. Like you'll never get a physical copy of it anywhere.
And I don't like the idea of like shows disappearing and you just not be able to watch it again, or you have to bootleg shows to watch it. I think that's kind of corny. Like even this show, Infinity Train. They took Infinity Train off of HBO Max.
Yeah.
Now the DVDs cost $300.
Oh yeah, and even finding a good deal on eBay is getting harder now. So
yeah, so it's just one of those things. Like, hey, I like the convenience of just all digital stuff, but it's too many variables that kind of mess it up for me. Like in terms of like, what if your internet goes out?
Exactly.
What if your internet service provider is having a problem, which is still,
what if you watch it all the time?
Yeah. What? So you kind of look at those things. Then you
what
have
if the episodes are edited?
Yeah. What if the episodes are edited and it doesn't have the original content in it? Like, but so I see the positives and negatives of both.
Right, and it seems like everything has to get politicized in some capacity. It just, how dare we enjoy ourselves?
Yeah, I see that. I think sometimes just gotta find what you love and enjoy it.
100%. And when you got into movies and TV and games, was it all kind of like, hey, just like the world, this is all just your personal circle. You can go around and access this whenever you want. You're here in America and you're embracing all kinds of entertainment. And how much of it would you say kind of even just inspires you as a person, other than, variety shows are the focus or the main template for your show?
A lot of it does. A lot of it. I think TV shows do, because I watch a good TV show and I sometimes want to interview the person that's behind it. Like a good example of that is I'm a big fan of the Boondocks cartoon show.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up getting a chance to interview Rodney Barnes, who used to write for the show. And now he does. I interviewed him earlier because he wrote a comic book that I love. I'm a big Falcon fan. Like,
oh, nice. I didn't know he wrote for Marvel.
Yeah, he wrote Falcon. He also wrote Lando. Oh, wow. He wrote a whole bunch of stuff. He has a great series called Philadelphia right now. I highly recommend people check out his comic book series. But also, if you're into TV, he's written the Showtime series Winning Time about the Lakers.
Winning Time.
The Showtime Lakers. He wrote that. He wrote the Wu-Tang series that was on Hulu.
Oh wow, yeah, I did see part of that. I didn't. Wow, I better finish that. Shit.
Yeah, he's wrote a few things that's kind of big now. The Runaways, I think he wrote the Runaways, the Wu-Tang series, and Showtime. The Magic Johnson, not the Magic Johnson, the Lakers stock.
He's got it.
Yeah.
So, altogether, what would you say is making up the gist of the people you interview? Like, because obviously, the dominoes have fallen where they've fallen, and you got in some of those interviews just like overnight. But what are some other just like ways that you try and craft a different kind of question that you feel isn't derivative or isn't just easy or, easy to just throw out there?
What I usually do is, well, I'm used to it now. So what I do is I let the conversation kind of flow. And what I mean by that is I get an idea what the person does and they likes, and I'll ask them questions based on that and see where they want to take the conversation. Because sometimes the key to it is really listening, honestly. Listening to what they want to talk about, what they want to discuss, and try to go from there. Like sometimes I'll have a conversation with a person, they'll mention something a little small detail. Like an episode I just did recently was about a guy who's a comic book creator. It's called Bjorn the Littlest Viking. It came out, I think it came out today. The episode came out today. His name is Ben Bender. And he mentioned, like, if you see the cover of Bjorn the Littlest Viking, it has a very Calvin and Hobbes Saturday morning comic strip feel to it. So me knowing that, I started asking him about what was his inspiration. And he was like, oh, Calvin and Hobbes and old Saturday morning, Sunday morning
that kind of
comic strips. Yeah, so we got in a conversation about that and how he he got in those type of things and why his art style is very different and similar to that style as opposed to, what you see in comics nowadays. And I think it's a really great conversation if you like those Sunday morning comics strips like I did, like the Boondocks, Snoopy, Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes.
By all means, yeah.
Yeah. So definitely check out that interview. Littlest Viking, great book.
So once again, you factored this all together and gotten the right kind of guests, gotten the right kind of questions. You learned so many fascinating stories about your guests. What do you think is a good, like, other people just kind of miss when it comes to like formatting a show? There's others that want to get nice and rowdy. They want to be shock jocks, but they lack kind of the sincereness of like Robin and Howard Stern, or even like you say, just everyone seems to want to just kind of see if they can outdo Joe Rogan in the insult faction. So it's
well. Let me ask you a question. I'll turn it back on you. What type of show would you want to do? What type of show do you want to do? What type of show do you want your podcast to be? That's an important question.
Even better, yeah. If I were doing a variety show, I would probably have it be a sketch show and then like one guest gets interviewed. But yeah, it seems like everyone kind of plays around with a lot of things, but sometimes they have a formula, other times they don't.
So the thing is, if that's the type of show you want to do, what are you doing to get to that level? Like, like my show, I always look at my show, the Delvin Cox Experience, is like Arsenio Hall.
Right.
Like the Arsenio Hall show. Like you come, you sit on the couch, the proverbial couch, and you have a conversation with me about either your project you're working on, your life, or what makes you tick. And I usually, I have icebreaker questions, which is the 5 for 5, 5 questions, 5 answers to get the ball rolling, where I ask 5 random questions to the guests, and that kind of breaks the ice with the guests and kind of gets them more comfortable. And they're random questions
they
that
really
they
do open up with you.
Yeah, they open up. Sometimes those questions go places because they have a story behind it, and it can start a conversation. The next thing you know, we're 20 minutes in the episode already just off of those questions.
Yeah.
And then that kind of warms them up to the whole show and the whole idea of it. I know for a fact a lot of people are starting to do that type of icebreaker question. Well, I think it's dope that people are doing that. But so find something that works for you. Find something that you can kind of break the ice with the guests, make them comfortable to get them into the mood to talk and be chatty about things. And if you want to do a variety show, find ways on doing it. Find how you want to do it. How do you want to make it a thing? I know there's a few good ones out there that I can try to think off the top of my head. I know my guy does one called, pardon my French, I think it's called A Wheelbarrow Full of Dicks. And it's kind of the way he does that's the name of his show. The way he does his show is so unique because he has interviews, but then he has skits in between the interview or the conversation and stuff like that. That kind of like almost like fake commercials, and it's fantastic. I think he does a great job with his name's Mike. He does a great job with that show. So you kind of, I think it's cool to listen to different podcasts and get inspiration. Don't steal exactly what they're doing, but get inspiration off of their stuff and kind of just to add your own feel to it. You know what I mean?
I would hope they do that as opposed to ask questions that are not ready to answer.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost like if you're doing a movie or show, is like if you're not ready to be in makeup or get butt ass naked like the people you're asking, then maybe you should be asking them either.
Definitely.
Oh man. So who are, in your opinion, who are the top 3 talk show hosts in your opinion?
In history?
Arsenio. Yeah, just in general. So you got Arsenio.
That's a good question. I like Arsenio Hall because I think he was one of those he was like one of the first real black talk show hosts out there who brought their own kind of hip hop feel to the talk show game. I feel like you have to add in Johnny Carson.
Oh yeah,
because he's a legend. The way he did it kind of inspired everybody else to do it. This is hard. Because there are certain people you could say the Jay Leno's, like you could say the Conan O'Brien's, which I like both of those. You could say the Trevor Noah's,
even Eric Andre, and he's just a mock of Space
Eric
Coast.
Andre. I'm gonna go Jon Stewart.
Oh, okay, nice. Because the Daily Show, for those who don't remember, was kind of suffering. Craig Kilborn was noted as not having any charisma and not being playing along with the clever sketch that the writing staff had set up, and John was already a comedian and part-time actor. It's just like, I'm gonna play around with this. I've done MTV. I can do this.
he made it work, and he made politics entertaining.
Right.
And even so, where I think that other people, whether they admit it or not, take from that with the way they do their. Like, I'm not even talking about
update.
Whether it's the weekend update, whether it's if you look at Fox News or even CNN, how they kind of add a little flavor to the way they report news. Look, a little bit of that comes from Jon Stewart. A little snarkiness with certain comments and stuff like that. Yeah.
1000%. And yeah, I mean, people kind of forget, like in the 90s, every other person was getting live TV and reality shows, and it was just like a dime a dozen now. And, politics otherwise just wasn't really talked about. It was just kind of implied through the various fiction with some social commentary if you wanted to make it realistic and gritty. But other than that,
I hate it. I honestly hate it. Nowadays, it sucks. Like, I say that because I think that people have gotten so ingrained in the politics, they make it part of it. Makes it their identity now. Like, every part of their life has to be, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, such and such, such and such. And it's really draining, to say the least. It's like, oh, come on, like
we are draining.
We as a society are more than just labels.
Yeah. Oh man. So now that, again, everyone just doesn't know when to kind of just shut it off after a while or kind of just organize themselves, what could they do to just kind of ensure that the entertainment, is still consistent there, and their points, had some research done and didn't feel like an angry rant?
Just have fun with it. That's the key to everything. If you're doing a podcast, enjoy. If you're doing a podcast, do it because you enjoy it. Don't do it because you think you're gonna make money or be super successful at it. Yeah, that's good and fine and dandy, but do it because you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't fucking do it. Simple as that. Don't do it. Like, do it because you enjoy it. Don't do it because you feel like you're obligated to do it. Add your spin to it. Make it yours.
You can't say no. Yeah.
Yeah. Just I think so many people get into podcasting because they think it's some big rainbow of pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's not always the case. From 90% of people, that's not the case. So just do it. Have fun with it. If you're tired of your format, change your format up. Do something different. But do it because you enjoy it. Work on building up your audience, finding people who are like-minded like you, who will like your content. And then keep going from there. Keep doing your thing.
Lovely. So you mentioned some good comedians, like obviously Dave Chappelle will always be one of the top greats. Did you watch a lot of live stand-up growing up, or see?
Oh yeah, I was a big, as a kid, I was a big Red Fox fan. I was a big Eddie Murphy fan. I was a big, just a lot of different comedians. Red Fox, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. Those were the guys I watched when I was a kid, and I was way too young to be watching that stuff. But that's kind of the household I grew up in. Then as I got older, I got into Chappelle, of course. I got into just a lot of different comedians that I kind of like.
Nice.
Bernie Mac, the Kings of Comedy. I'm trying to think of all the ones I like. Martin Lawrence when he was doing it. Chris Tucker. I don't know if you remember this. There was a Def Comedy Jam was a big thing in the early 2000s, and I used to watch a lot of that, and I kind of enjoyed. Not only like the comedians on that, but I enjoyed the Russell Simmons and how he would introduce the comedians and stuff like that, and how he would sign off. It felt special watching that show.
Yeah, it was in deep, and it's never the same when other shows kind of try to imitate some of the comedy blocks. It was like, okay, but you just have one comedian who really doesn't have any relation to any of these other guys who's just hosting it.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite stand-up to see live?
Dave Chappelle, I like a lot. I want to say when I watched his special "Killing Me Softly," it was really that's probably my favorite one. I want to say,
nice.
That was my favorite. But as of lately, Andrew Schultz has a special that's really good. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but let me look it up. Andrew Schultz is really good. I think more people should be checking out Andrew Schultz stuff because he does a great job of playing both sides of the thing and kind of just making fun of each other and kind of having fun with it. Definitely.
There's been a lot of different comedians who've been touring around still, staying active. Some are still ideal to see live, and others are kind of just retreading the same jokes. Who are you dying to still see live if they ever come into town?
Chappelle, I'm dying to see live. Cat Williams, I want to see live. I think Cat Williams is a really good comedian. I would like to see him live. Just anybody who pushes the culture and tries to do something different. I know, and also the people who are just legends, like even Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is a legend. Like kings. Like I said, I always say the kings of comedy. That was something that was revolutionary in terms of like you have these 4 black comedians that are well known getting together, making this big comedy tour and it blowing up.
Right. I've seen Wayne Brady live, and I totally recommend anyone go see his show.
I like Wayne Brady. He's an interesting dude.
Right, he's wonderful. He interacts with the audience and tells some serious life stories, and not anything you could fit into a Who's Line skit. Like, it gets deep.
That's dope. That's really cool. I like Wayne Brady. The Dave Chappelle skit with Wayne Brady was hilarious.
Oh,
one of the best parts. I think that might have been one of the best episodes of Chappelle.
Yeah, he'll answer questions about that. He gets it. Also, for those who want to start up a podcast, we've already gone into ways that you can make it not be work and actually ensure that the passion is left intact. What podcasts do you think are really trending right now, are just like earth shattering because the content on them delivers?
I have been really into audio dramas as of lately, and I've kind of
part of one.
Yeah, I'm kind of digging that indie podcasters to kind of find this new lane of let's make an audio drama and make it as high production as possible. Like I'll give a perfect example. Crystal Storm has made one called Legacy.
You were in it, yeah.
Which is fantastic. It's a Star Wars podcast, kind of set in the Old Republic time, and it's a great series. And Race to Canis from Who Would Win show fame has Detroit podcast, Vampire Detroit podcast is really good. I think I like that my friends are doing shows and they are high production, high value. It sounds like something you would hear on Audible. And I think that's dope that people are kind of, we don't have the money to make a big budget movie, but we have the talent to make high quality audio dramas. Like, like they had back in the day when this is old school time, but like when people used to sit around the radio and listen to like War of the Worlds. We don't have to do that no more. We can just pick up our phone and listen to Reclaim Detroit, a Vampire the Masquerade audio drama by Race to Canis. And I like that because I like audio dramas. I like Audible. Audible's dope. And I like the fact that you can pick up your phone and kind of find like stuff like that. And I like that the podcasting game is getting to the point where you can find podcasts for everything.
And we know it's a work of fiction, not, legit aliens are attacking us. Like we're somewhere else wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. How do you think something like that would happen nowadays, especially with how it doesn't really take much for people to believe all kinds of crazy creepypastas and conspiracy?
The War of the Worlds type of situation?
I mean, we saw it with the White House.
Easy. We're experiencing that now. It's not like it's something different. All you have to do is just go out there and say fake news and people believe it. That's all you got to do. We're experiencing that now with people saying the election was rigged, and then you have people. That's like you don't have to That's the crazy thing about today's society.
You don't have to even try.
You don't have to try, nor do you have to have proof on anything. You just say what you want to say, and people either believe it or you don't, and you'll probably get people believing it. Like I remember a few years back, people were saying, and it's a thing, people think the world's flat, and you have a whole bunch of flat earthers saying the world is flat. So it does, and they come up with these notions of why they think the world is flat and stuff like that, and people believe it. And I feel like YouTube plays a big part into it because you can just make a pretty video. I also feel like depending on the person who says it, if they have a perceived set of power in society, people will believe it. Like our former president was saying the election was rigged and stolen. So a lot of people believe that.
People will believe any kind of branding, and it's like, oh, it's reported by a reliable source. And it's like, he just has literally a green screen that makes his studio look like CNN.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Oh God. Did you ever watch a lot of reporters that and just get a gist on how they speak and everything, get inspired by that, or even a TED Talk?
I listen to. I find the news boring.
No, it's fine. No, it's good.
No. It's not a knock on it, but I've always found the news boring until now because they kind of throw it in your face. But I've always listened to like talk radio. That was my thing. Like even when I was in college, I would listen to the Dan Le Batard show, which is a sports radio show, which was cool. But before that came on, Rush Limbaugh would come on. So like it's crazy because like
AM stations,
yeah, I would be getting out of college class, hopping in my car, going to work or something like that, and Rush Limbaugh would come out. So I would catch the last 10 minutes of Rush Limbaugh, and this is how long ago this was. It was during the time, I want to say, of the Iraq War with Bush. It had to be. So I would hear a lot of commentary on that, and me, I wasn't in politics back then, so I didn't know the difference of Republican and Democrat and stuff like that. So I hear a little bit of that. Then I would go into the Dan Le, because it was like I would look at that show like, okay, I'm just waiting for him to shut up so I can listen to Dan Le Batard. And I got kind of into that.
20 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. And then I would listen. Then eventually I started getting the podcasts like Adam Carolla. And then I found out there was like podcast things that I like. I started just going into video game podcast, and I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, so I started listening to all his podcasts, like Smodcast and stuff like that. It just kind of snowballed from there. So, in terms of like TV, like news, never was really into news like that. I study it now. I read it, watch it now because I feel like I have to, because some of the nonsense that comes out that you want to be informed, so you just don't go out there with a ill-informed opinion about certain things. So yeah.
Google News is only good for so long. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to watch a local CBS, ABC broadcast.
Yeah.
When you brainstormed your show, what are some tips and tricks you'd recommend to other up-and-coming people who want to create a show with whatever format and make sure they got the right kind of sound and time and energy? How can they just know that they're serious and they can save time doing this?
I'll give some tips right now. First things first. If you're going to be a podcaster and you're going to take it seriously, be consistent. If you want to build an audience, you got to put out stuff every week or once a month. If you're going to do it once a month, do it once a month. But whatever you do, be consistent at that.
Right.
Second thing, make sure your audio quality is good, at least decent enough so people can hear it. I know you're not going to be 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get it right the first time you hear it. But
no.
Read before you start.
You'll lose it in the feed, and you'll be like, I can't ever get that chat back. That 90 joyous minutes.
Yeah, just go investigate. Like, go study on how to make your audio sound decent and stuff like that. Just listen to other podcasts and learn from those podcasts and how to make it sound good, and keep working on it. Also, like, because audio quality is one of the most important things you can have in a podcast.
1,000%.
If it doesn't sound at least decent, people will turn it off 9 times out of 10. So get the audio quality pretty good. Yeah. Get the audio quality pretty good. Be consistent. Know that 9 times out of 10, your first episode, your second episode, third episodes, not going to be 100,000 downloads as you're thinking. Might not even be 5. So
no,
just keep that in mind. I think people set their expectations too high. Set expectations of what you expect to get.
Right.
Like I'll give you a perfect example. If you have 30 followers on Twitter, don't expect you to have 150, 200 downloads for your episode.
Yeah,
You know,
don't go there.
it's not to be mean or anything like that, but just my whole thing is
Be
whole point is
realistic.
be realistic. You know, you want to kind of build your following on a social media platform so you can get people to listen to your podcast, so you can build that up. So that's also very important. But there's also a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of podcast places that you can host your podcast at for free. I think Anchor is a good one. Red Circle has free hosting. Find one of those and start hosting your podcast there, so you can just get a head start on that. At a minimum to low cost to you. Also, download Audacity. Audacity is a good startup tool for people who want to.
So wild how many music artists were using it, and it's like, hey, it applies to any kind of sound. Who were your also just kind of mentors growing up that kind of just encouraged you to be very creative with your time, with your management, with what you were studying?
My older brother, he's a former Marine. He's a cop in Miami-Dade County.
Oh, cool.
I guess I looked up to him, but I didn't really have mentors. I kind of grew up in like the rough streets of Miami. Grew up in the hood, and I kind of moved to the beat of my own drum. I kind of.
What did you study?
Believe it or not, criminal justice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I studied that for a few years and realized that was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, once you
didn't want to take the radio broadcast elective, so
yeah. So I studied that. I did it when I was younger. I did a lot of hip hop music. I learned how to do a little bit of music production,
little beats.
Nice. Yeah, beats and stuff like that. But yeah, I ended up getting into like management and stuff like that. So just sometimes the path that you think you're going to go down is not always the path you go down.
Very nice. And what college were you trying out?
Oh, I went to Florida Memorial, now it's a university, Florida Memorial College for 2 years, which was fun. It was interesting. I didn't finish because I ended up working. I ended up having a job at like Einstein Bagels.
God, I had one on campus. It was one of those stared you right in the face. It's like, can I go 1 week without spending $14+ bucks? You know,
yeah,
going back and forth.
It was one of those things where I ended up like having to get a job and help take care of my mom and help her pay bills and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't have time to do school, work, and all these other things.
But at least you didn't have your priorities, let alone have to be told by everyone, this is how you're going to, spend the next 5 years. You got to go to class. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, we got some other questions. We got some fan mail. That's right. I kid you not. I've never had a podcast with this many questions asked on Twitter. Today is the day. So we will ask this first. This comes from James Gapsby. Yeah. Okay. Fellow comedian in crime. So he wants to know if your super genius was a superpower you were born with or something you developed over time, much like Batman. James.
To answer that question, I learn from other people. So any smarts I have is because of the great people I know and friends I've made, including James. And I appreciate looking at them and getting knowledge from them, and that makes me a better person.
Nice. I love it. Kindness makes so many things go a long way, and unfortunately we got a sidebar for that. Why do you think so many people they kind of want to be an actor, but they can't ever turn the actor off when the cameras stop rolling? Why is it so hard for people to be sincerely kind, just courteous, like, hey, I'm gonna open the door for you, pat you on the back, you did a good job?
I think it has to do with people are very standoffish because they don't know. They think everybody has an ulterior motive.
What about ethics? Like, so often you'll see people who just don't know how to feel, and then you find out the hard way, wow, they got pretty low standards.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing too. But that's a whole nother story about people and confidence issues and the way society is, and sometimes you just don't have your confidence there because of upbringing in life choices and things that happen to you.
Such a shame. Got to deal with this. I didn't mean to be Debbie Downer, man.
No, you're good.
All right. So the something cast, they decided to intervene. How are you hoping that your portrayal of Jon Stewart will inspire others to be represented in the VA community?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. But I didn't even mention it on here.
Is it veteran affairs or voice actors?
Voice actors.
Voice actors, yeah.
Let me explain that here, Cam, because I don't know if you know this or not. They're doing an audio drama called Justice League Mortal. And in the audio drama, I'm playing Green Lantern Jon Stewart.
Oh, sweet. Well, what network is this on?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think he made a network for it. It's called let me see. I don't want to mess it up. You ever heard of the Dial-Up Movie Club guys?
Yes.
Matthew Dawson's doing the project, and it kind of has a really good cast of podcasters. Race Canis is on it. He's playing Batman. I'm playing Green Lantern Jon Stewart. It's
sweet.
Check out the cast list. It's a pretty cool cast list. Crystal Storm is playing the narrator, and we're just kind of doing our thing with it, and I think it's really cool.
So, Dial-Up Movie Club.
Yeah. So to answer the question, I think it's an honor to play a character that I love because I grew up watching the Justice League cartoon shows, and Jon Stewart was my guy. Like, you know, watching those shows and him being
that Jon Stewart, yeah, the Green Lantern.
Yes. So I take it kind of seriously. I want to add my own flair to it, but I also want to pay homage to all the people who played that role, whether it was in the recent animated movie that came out or the 90s cartoon show. So I take it very seriously because I don't know how many people are going to hear it, but I would like for maybe one day a kid hears it and like, oh, that the same way I felt about the Justice League when I was growing up. I would hope that some kid was hear my version of Jon Stewart, like, that is cool. I think Jon Stewart was cool, and that's the reason why I think it's cool. And it doesn't matter if it's like one person, 5 people, 100 people, but as long as somebody hears it and enjoys it, that's all that matters to me.
That's definitely what matters. Yeah. Nothing worse than when you just feel like, everyone's doing a school play like equivalent and something only your mom is going to clap at. It's like, no, let's do our impressions we've been practicing for quite a while and let's use the best takes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, very cool, very cool. So, speaking of which, Matthew Dawson from that club is here, and he asks, what will Delvin's diet workout routine be to prepare for the role of Green Lantern? Even though it's a voice actor.
It's a voice acting role, but I have been dieting, I've been exercising because,
live your role, live your character's life.
After the pandemic, people started gaining weight, starting to get love handles. So I'm kind of taking better care of myself, eating right, doing a little bit of exercise. So
nice.
I will be in decent shape to play the role, the voice acting role, to say the least.
And I think it was Crystal who asked this. I might be mistaken. Why are you fearful of pottery?
Okay, I can tell that story. There's an episode of Who Would Win where, I don't know if you do know this, like they have like the Who Would Win Fan of the Week, they do thing.
Yeah, for those who don't listen to Who Would Win show, when they're not doing a matchup between a movie, book, or comic book, or TV show character, then they have now offered Patreons. They will list your name, whoever this is the latest Patreon, and they'll give you a fictional matchup. And of course, inevitably the Patreon wins, but they create, again, like all these things, they create a storyline and keep you in suspense before the inevitable punch out, so to speak.
Yes. I am the only person who's ever lost a battle. And the person I lost against was Mugman from Cuphead.
Man.
Yes. Which is quite funny. Yeah.
Which episode was that?
I don't remember what episode it was, but it was pretty funny because if I remember correctly, the voice actor from Cuphead was on there who plays Mugman. So I fought Mugman in the Who Would Win battle and lost while the voice actor was there. Which was great.
Yeah. I've always liked how you'll just chime in every once in a while and you're like, whoa. Just you haven't told me anything that will talk about their strength. I just need that, my dude. I just need that.
Yeah.
Oh man. So it's about time we got to Kevin Goatee, cutting the sacred cow.
My God.
Just as a disclaimer, I fucking hate having to do trigger warnings. Not responsible for what this question entails or the consequences. Ask Delvin why he's a passionless kisser and why he's a communist that hates Jews. Kevin's questions, not mine. I don't know what the hell it's going for. I was already confused. He asked it. I consider Delvin a pretty cool guy, so I don't know what the hell this has to do with anything.
I think I'm a very good kisser. I don't kiss. I'm a very passionful kisser. Is it passionful? Yeah, passionful kisser. And I don't hate Jews. I love Jewish people. I love the Jewish community.
Loves everybody. What the fuck are you talking about? I love everybody. Kevin? Did you intel this from Mel Gibson? Jesus.
I'm all about diversity, so I love everybody.
Jesus, escorts can even be passionful, so I don't know what the hell passionless means. I mean, do you mean has Delvin been an actor in some time and he didn't give his best performance? What does this mean?
I don't know. I think Kevin Goatee wants me to kiss him.
And then Kevin's going to come back with, well, I respect my time. I don't want it wasted on this. Okay. Oh, so I don't know how they got into this, but the Porn Stash podcast and Porn Stash WWYD decided to intervene. And the former asked, what place has the best chicken? KFC, Church's, or Popeyes? Regular or seedless watermelon? Grape Kool-Aid, grape drink, or grape juice? Jesus.
Okay, I'll answer this question. Not a big fan of chicken.
All right, go fuck yourself, Porn Stash.
I'm not a big fan of fried chicken. Chicken's all right. It's not like, I'm not crazy. But if I had to pick out of those three, I'd probably pick Popeyes because I like the Popeyes chicken sandwich really good. It's a pretty good sandwich. Watermelon, I despise watermelon.
Yeah,
watermelon's disgusting.
I don't feel like that was a trigger. That was him just
it's
going
fine.
after the stereotypes.
Yeah, I don't fall into any of these stereotypes, and I don't like grape drink that much. Like grape Kool-Aid or none of those drinks that much. Like they're okay. If it's there, I'll drink it. But if there was a Kool-Aid flavor, I would probably drink. It'd probably be tropical punch. It wouldn't be grape.
Even better. Nice.
And I used to like if anything, over any of the Kool-Aid flavors, I'd probably drink Nesquik. Like when I was a kid, I used to drink the strawberry Nesquik. Really good stuff.
Nice. Oh man.
Can't put me in a box.
Yeah. And if you do, we're gonna unbox there, so Porn Stashes again. So who would you do? Twitter decides to ask, why do white people find you so easy to approach with questions they probably shouldn't be asking a black guy?
I feel like this is the perfect question to ask after the previous question. I think it's because I don't mind answering questions. I don't mind having a conversation if people can learn from it. Now, if you just ask me a question and be an asshole, that's one thing. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are genuinely curious about certain things, or they don't understand. They don't understand what they're saying is hurtful or harmful. So they're asking questions so they can learn. So if I can teach someone something so they can be less of an asshole, I don't have a problem with that. And I think because of my demeanor and the way I come off, I think a lot of people get that and understand. Like, you know what?
Your bullshit detector is up. You can detect if they're being a smart ass, whether versus they want to have an actual thoughtful conversation.
Yeah, and I think because of that, I think people understand they ask me questions because they want to learn. And I'm all for help people learn about how to move the right way and the wrong way,
Right. Well, very well said, sir. to four very smart ass. Oh, man. And this comes from Teresa. Her Twitter name is Teresa BPS. She asks, Costco or Sam's Club? Doesn't she know that this is like asking Facebook or Instagram? I'll let you.
I have an answer. I have a Costco card, so I have to go Costco. Sam's Club is cool, but there's not that many Sam's Clubs by me. Costco really isn't that close to me either. But
Costco's freaking everywhere.
Yeah, Costco's a lot closer. And there's a lot more Costco's.
Do they have? Who do you think has better pizza?
I've never tried either one of their pizzas. I've only tried the hot dog at Costco, and that is pretty good. They have like a big hot dog there that's really, really, really good. I think it's like $1.25 or something like that.
Are you into pretzels or popcorn?
Yeah, I like pretzels and popcorn. Really good.
So the Costco has spoken.
Yes. Costco wins the battle.
They're actually not by the same company, but the Sam's Club was basically where you went if you wanted a super version of Walmart.
Yes. We also have down here, I don't know if they have it everywhere, BJ's. And it's not what you think. It's an actual store that's like Costco. It's not the other thing. That's not the word. It's not the other thing that
Do you have BJ's Brew House?
No, it's we don't have BJ's Brew House. We have just BJ's what do you call Costco? Just a big retail store.
Giant retail apparel.
That you just go in there and get like big tubs of food and other shit that you don't need.
Nice. Very sweet, very sweet. So those have been the smartass questions posed by several followers. So that was entertaining. Thanks, guys. What do you have coming up that you feel is just going to really define 2023 for you? Or you're just like, man, this was just not only just a cool collaboration, we all had a wonderful chat, but like we did something that we're all proud of.
I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think the Justice League Mortal thing is gonna be pretty huge. Like, I'm super excited to play the Green Lantern. I'm super excited to work with the cast I'm working with. That's gonna be pretty big thing that I feel like I'm gonna be super proud of when it's finished.
Do you think it took the pandemic to just more people were having to just force themselves to realize, hey, I can embrace audio drama wherever I go?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think the pandemic probably played a little hand into it in terms of like people being home and letting those creative juices flow. And
they got to do more than just YouTube videos.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. That one of the few good things that probably came out of the pandemic, people got more creative with their time. People, since they were stuck at home, they figured out other ways to be more creative, and I think it's dope.
That's great. What about fan fiction in general? Like there was written fan fiction, there was then unofficial fan fiction books that you download and just say, hey, this is my personal reveal of where a story goes. There's fan films, and a lot of those studios have cock blocked them, so to speak, because
I love all that stuff. I love the fan fiction. I love the fan films. I think all that stuff when it's well done is really cool. There's one, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called Batman Legacy. That was really good. There's another one where I remember watching where Batman fights the Predator.
Right. That was definitely one of many that many saw, and it kicked off so many. And it was, I use many way too much, but it really just like kept it so simple and focused on the costumes, the atmosphere, and the look. And
yeah,
the actor who played Batman got a lot of work. Even
yeah, I thought it was really cool. I think
Batman Dead End. That's what it was.
Yeah, Batman Dead End. That was really cool. I remember watching that. Like, this is amazing. Bat in the Sun has done a lot of that type of stuff. That's what the YouTube channel is called.
Batman
it's really good. Wow. Bat in the Sun. Then you have Ismahawk, who used to do a lot of stuff. Danny Shepard. Do a lot of cool stuff like that. With he had like a Nightwing series he was working on, a YouTube series. Yeah, a lot of that cool stuff I used to be really into. So yeah, I love the fan films and stuff like that.
Who's your ultimate favorite superhero character?
Captain America. Without question.
Hence your Twitter animation. Yeah.
Captain America, both of them. Whether it's Captain America's Sam Wilson and Captain America Steve Rogers, I love both of them. I like the juxtaposition of somebody who doesn't necessarily have the powers of a Superman per se, but no matter what, tries to do the right thing and has the know-how to be like, you know what, I'm going to fight for everybody, not just black people, not just white people, but for everybody in equality and justice. So I always like the aspect of Captain America kind of being.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Do you feel like comic books are being rediscovered by people who somehow just never really got into it thanks to comic book movies, and vice versa? Do you think some comic book fans are becoming more open-minded, realizing, hey, your favorite vision can, of your comic book and superhero characters can be realized on a good movie and TV show that took its time, and you're now starting to appreciate movies now, even?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think that's definitely a thing. I think people are getting more into comic books because of these great shows and movies kind of gelling together. Like, for example, the Sandman series is really good. So I'm certain that a lot of people saw that series and like, let me read the Sandman Vertigo comics, or
No
people
guy,
saw.
no Gaiman even came out and just told everyone who was going to make the inevitable just comparisons and contrasts to do away with gatekeeping. Why do you
Yeah,
think gatekeeping has become more and more common in toxic fandom?
I
People feel like
think
they speak for everybody.
people people are getting more selfish with things, and they want
Mm,
things their way. And you see that with everything now. Politics, like, hey, if it's not
yeah,
this way, it has to be. It has to be this way, or it's nothing. It
right.
doesn't have to be. We
It's
have
dead to
layers of things.
me unless you do this and that.
You can like Marvel and DC. You can like
Right?
PlayStation and Xbox. It's quite okay. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. We have the freedom to like anything we want or dislike anything we want. And I think it's kind of corny that we sit here and we close ourselves off from things. Not only close ourselves off from things, but have the audacity to close other people off from things. That's where it gets annoying. Like, really, you want to stop me from watching something because you don't like it? Come on, just let people enjoy what they
Yeah.
enjoy.
It's almost almost like you can tell who these people are based on you end up facing some of these fools on the highway every day.
Yeah.
They're the same ones who take up all four lanes just trying to cross over without using their turn signal and cause a wreck,
Yeah.
abandon the car so they don't have to face the consequences, that kind of selfishness.
Yeah, that's a common thing. People are very selfish, unfortunately. That's kind of the society we live in now. People are out for themselves.
1000%. Um, Furthermore, what are a few things everyone can do every day just to make sure they have a definitive day? Obviously there's all kinds of things like, force a smile, or eat a breakfast that and drink a coffee that wakes you up, get a good night's rest. But what are just your personal formula?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, go into the day expecting the best, but preparing for the worst. And what I mean by that is you got to go in the day knowing, like, hey, I want to have a good day, but whatever happens, happens. Go in the day having a game plan. Like, hey, if you want to get something done, I always try to get. When I wake up in the morning, I have one thing I want to get done. So by the end of the day, I want to get that task done. So I feel like as long as I get that one task done, I've accomplished something that day. So I don't want to go through a day without accomplishing, feel like I haven't accomplished anything. Like, that one task could be, hey, doing this podcast. Hey, you got a podcast to do today. But I know that, hey, after the days of what I got this done. And I think more people should kind of set a schedule for themselves. And also, very important to set time for yourself to relax and get back.
Yes, not enough time.
Because I think we kind of get wrapped up into doing so much stuff, whether it's work or family responsibilities of life, we don't take time out for ourselves. So, yeah.
Very cool. And right now, okay, I'm trying not to get too sappy here, but to close this out, again, there's always going to be bullies, there's always going to be racism, there's always going to be hatred and just other nihilistic just pricks in this world.
Yes.
And one of the biggest discoveries, that's been, outside of just political disruptions, has been just people analyzing mental health and just finally realizing what it actually means. Used to be people would just say, "Oh, you're crazy, just go to the nut house, they'll take care of you," or realizing it's connected to midlife crisis. And so many people are still just having seemingly just random spouts of depression, regardless of their diagnosed lifestyle. what are some other steps to just kind of just analyze that something is just really striking everyone the wrong way and just affecting everyone's day-to-day sense of happiness, let alone its pursuit? uh, what are some other steps to where you're just saying, hey, it's a danger zone, we got to do something, and we got to word this very carefully?
I think the best course of action I've learned is understanding that we don't know what goes on in a person's life and what they're going through. So it's best not to judge them or push them
Mm-hmm.
because you never know what they've gone through. So and also, I always kind of leave my door open. My DMs are always open for people who may be going through something and want to just sit there and air out their opinions and their feelings to me about what they're going through. It may help them. You know, and I think sometimes it's important to listen to people and hear their problems. So no, not necessarily so you can help them, but so you can understand them, and maybe you understand them helps them.
Maybe just listening to them for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I've done that for plenty of people. I've listened to people vent, they're going through something, and I think it's helped some people cope and deal with some of their problems they've been dealing with. I think it's very important because we've had a lot of issues with people having mental health problems, and we've had a lot of situations where things went really bad with some of the school shootings and things like that.
Oh yeah,
often cite mental health, and yes, the gun problems is also a problem, but we also have to kind of figure out how yes, not only see the warning signs, but figure out how we can stop people from getting to the point where they feel like they have to go to a school with a gun and shoot up schools or shoot up areas because they have so much hatred or anger or even depression in their hearts that they feel this is necessary. So it's a two-pronged problem. And I am very big on just people seeking help, normalizing mental health. And I know it's kind of a cliche thing, but I think it's important to look out for one's health, whether it's physically and mentally. You know,
it's very well said. And
thank you.
Altogether, we've been talking about it quite a lot on how this is the time for creativity. If everyone doesn't like something, they should get off their ass and do something their own self. How do you think? But one thing I'm noticing when creators are sharing, asking for second opinions with each other, there's still a brick wall equivalent that we can't break through, and that is just finding something constructive. Why do you feel like so many people, other than just laziness or selfishness, just lack the ability to just not go on a rant, to not be some level of in-depth, just helpfulness? Everyone's just so quick to just bitch, and just strike someone down with just, they might as well have insulted them. They're just like, wow, that was such garbage.
I think we're living in a time where people don't take feedback very well. But at the same time, I don't think people give feedback very well as well. Which is kind of a catch-22. Right. And I always look at things like, sometimes it's better not to say nothing. Sometimes, if you can't say anything good, sometimes it's better not to say anything. Because sometimes, straight up, people don't want to hear that shit. Yeah. Like, if people are going through something and you tell them, yeah, your stuff sucks or whatever it is, we don't like it, sometimes they may not want to hear it. Now, I'm always the person, if I'm cool with somebody and they did something with some type of art, whether it's podcasting, audio dramas, or music or something like that, and if it's not where it needs to be at, if I'm cool with you, I'm going to tell you, this ain't it. But I'm also going to offer, I'm not going to say, man, this sucks, and just leave it at this sucks. I'm going to just say, hey, this might not be it. This is how you can fix this. This is how you can make it better. Let's see if we can tinker around with it to get a better idea of it. Or let me tell you, like, ways to improve it. so you can get a better response from it. Now, after I give you my constructive criticism, you can either take it or you don't.
Right.
But at least I know that I was being fair to you with it. I don't think sometimes people are being fair with the way they give criticism. They just kind of just say what they want to say and put it out there, which is fine. But you can't be mad if the person reacts to that in a negative way. Like if I tell you, hey, you suck, and I just leave it at that, and you get pissed off at me, you start screaming at me, well, it's kind of my fault.
Right.
Because I didn't tell you in the right way. That's kind of how it is. Sometimes you gotta put the medicine in the candy. I think that's how the expression goes. Put the medicine in the candy to get the best results. Or sometimes, in some cases, you got to tell people the hard way because some people just don't. Sometimes you put the medicine in the candy, people are like, nah, screw the candy. So sometimes you got to tell people like, hey, well, this is not it.
Right.
You got to be a little harsh, but it depends on the relationship you have with that person too.
Okay, well, this has been just a great sit down in that basically we allowed ourselves to just kind of get some inspiration here as opposed to just have one just back and forth kind of heated conversation.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely cool.
What other things do you have planned? That any other collaborations or upcoming events that you want to highlight?
All right, let me go down the list because I have a whole bunch of shit. I have the Delvin Cox experience with, I guess, the flagship show where I interview people. So definitely check that out. I
Still
also
love
have
the Black Thanksgiving. That was just great.
Yeah, that was a great one. Bill the Great. Yeah, that was a great episode. I also have Play Some Video Games. That's the podcast I do about video games and stuff with Donnie Reese and Devin Tyus, which is a fun podcast to do with two of my good friends.
What video game are they adapting next?
I don't know. Well, we were talking about The Last of Us recently, so that's a big one. I also have Cadillac on Mars, which is the podcast I do with my friend Chalfie. I'm not the host of some of these podcasts. I'm just there because they're like, hey, let's do a podcast. I'm trying to think what else I'm doing now. Those are the main ones.
Mars. Check it out, guys.
Definitely, but those are the main ones. And, also Justice League Mortal's going to be coming out soon. We're recording our lines for it as we speak. So be on the lookout for that. Check out Dial Up Movie Club Twitter feed. Also Matthew Dawson to get updates on when Justice League Mortal comes out. I know they're working on part 1 now, so that'll be available soon. And then you have I think it's a 5-part series. So part 1, part 2, part 3, so forth and so on. So be on the lookout for Justice League Mortal. I'll play John Stewart, Green Lantern. I get to say the cool Green Lantern oath and stuff like that. So definitely check that out.
Nice. Okay, well, thanks 1,000. This was just very sincere.
No problem, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on.
You be safe out there and look forward to your next few guests on The Experience.
Appreciate you.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up